So you found the link, Bob. You are muted, by the way. Was that easier, Bob?
Much easier.
All right. And we've got Mike and we've got Rhiannon.
Hey, folks.
Howdy. How you doing, Bob?
Okay, hanging in there. How you doing, Mike?
Not bad. Just drove back from Massachusetts today, so I'm semi-conscious.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, at least you got good weather.
Yeah, it was a good day for a drive.
Yep.
We certainly do expect Sandy to be joining us. And one of the Toms at least. Two of the Toms at least.
Hey, Roy, how's it going?
Not too bad, you?
I'm doing well. Sandy said that I could join you guys in this meeting. I just wanted to check in and see how things were going.
Yep, that's excellent. Give it a couple minutes, see if we get any more committee members.
And I'll just introduce myself real quick. I'm Genevieve with the Island Institute. I'm new to the broadband team, so bear with me if I don't have all the answers today.
Thank you.
It's all right. None of us have answers.
Fair enough. I know I kind of had this sense coming into the job about a month ago. I was like, man, I have a lot of acronyms to learn and a lot to catch up on, but I realized that everything is kind of changing in real time and that we're all kind of in the same boat. So it's nice to have that camaraderie.
Sandy just joined. Okay.
Wait one more minute, and if nothing else, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed. While we're waiting, I'll just bring up the agenda here, which is my working copy of the minutes. So, all right, we may as well call it to order. I will say 4:03. And we have Bob, myself, Rhiannon, Sandy, and Mike. And 2 guests. Thomas, you're with EMDC, correct? Again?
Yep, I can change my header up here.
Oh, I'm not too worried. I just wanted to have a record of it here. Okay, let's do minutes before I forget it. Anybody like to make a motion? Well, were you gonna make a motion to approve the minutes, Bob?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And I will second that. And Sandy, you weren't here at the last meeting, were you? Or? No, and Rhiannon wasn't. And Mike, you were on chat.
Yeah, I was
At
in and
least.
out of the meeting. Yep.
All right, so all those in favor of the minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved. So outreach prep. As I said in my email earlier, I did look into the Gouldsboro Rec Center for one venue for our outreach meetings, and that seems to be eminently doable, especially if we do a later afternoon, early evening time. I think the best thing for us to do is pick a date that we would like to do an outreach event at the rec center, and we can try and secure that time. At present, well, certainly not just at present, but Eve Wilkinson, town manager in Gouldsboro, said we would not be charged for the use of the rec center, but we are required to have insurance for the event, which, as I said, for the program that they suggested to me, I did a quote, and for 50 people, I don't know if we're only going to have 50 people, we might want to up it. 50 people for that one meeting, no food, no drink, just basic meeting. It was $77. So very doable insurance. And
Mm.
that would be potentially our only direct cost for that, for actually hosting the meeting. And I was speaking to Bob earlier, and I think probably rather than try to rely on the newsletters in Gouldsboro and Winter Harbor, that we might just want to go ahead and do a direct mail to all residents, just like we did for the surveys, and ask people to come out that way. And I think we stand perhaps even a better chance to grab people's attention, because if they read the newsletter, if they don't, that's one piece of mail. But if ours is a separate piece of mail, it'll probably get seen, at least. So that's my thoughts on that. And so my goal for today would be to go over the content that we want to present, that we could probably throw together into a PowerPoint or something of that nature, and try and pick some dates that it doesn't have to be everybody on the committee at the event, but it would be nice to have a few people there besides just myself, because and Bob, I'm sure you would try to attend if possible.
Mm. Uh-huh.
So that's my update. Do we have some thoughts?
I just think the sooner we do it, I think the better. Just getting out there. And if there's other activities that might be going on, if we're trying to get an audience of young families, I know there's a lot of sports events going on right now. So maybe just trying to be mindful about that. It might be better to do it on a weekend when there's less meetings and activities going on.
Okay.
There's a lot of year-end stuff that occupies the young families too. In end of school year.
I need to find a way to get out of full screen here. So who just joined? Tom Lloyd, okay. So does everybody think a Saturday would be a better day to do it?
No, if everybody's working, everybody's shopping that day.
Okay.
So it may be hard to get people to join that call.
It seems that
just my-
most of the gatherings here in the Gouldsboro environment are on weeknights, but
Yeah.
that's just my impression.
Mhm.
Well, certainly I was thinking, as I said, late afternoon, early evening, and certainly we meet on Wednesdays. Now we
Mhm.
meet on Wednesdays. It might be one thing to do is just plan it for a Wednesday evening. We could also look at planning the other one for a Saturday, depending on the feedback. We might get feedback from people at whatever the first meeting is that would inform what might be a better date for some people. Obviously, it'd probably be different people, but there might be some insight we could glean from that as well. I'm open to either time.
Well, I agree with the Wednesday early evening. I mean, after people get home to have dinner and then just shoot on over.
Thomas, have you had any experience with sort of outreach events? Is there a time that you've seen that's worked better for people?
Well, in most of the events that we've held, they have been on weeknights, after work or other duties. But in the few events that I've held with these towns, there hasn't been a lot of attendance, so I can't say for sure when the best date is really to have one.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts?
What month are you thinking of, Roy?
I am thinking, I mean, we really wanted to have something before now, but nothing really was able to be done. So I'm thinking definitely April. And I think too soon in April is going to be very difficult to allow people to plan to be able to attend. So I'm thinking mid, hopefully not late April.
Third week of April isn't that school vacation, so families are going to be away.
Oh, how I miss those vacation days.
Mhm.
So then I guess we could try to shoot for the fourth week in April. It's later than I would have liked, but that might work for people. They'd be hopefully back from vacation at that point.
Can you
Yeah.
guys allocate some of your get ready funding to this event? For food, drinks, marketing,
I
that sort
had
of thing.
had hoped to avoid food and drinks just because that's going to be a little bit more cleanup, but if it would be likely to help the turnout, then maybe it's worth doing.
It definitely could. It definitely could. Enfield, who I worked with, had more luck than anyone else, and they just had a small little pasta dinner. I mean, it was only a couple people more. They had a different purpose behind their meeting. You guys need to get as many people as possible. So I mean, that's up to you guys.
Yeah, just to get me up to speed real quick, what is the meeting about? I'm assuming broadband, but what the specifics of it?
Yeah, so we have done RFIs and we've gotten responses from Consolidated Communications and Axiom. And at this point, we're just really trying to have a first outreach to the communities to let them know what we've got for information, the models that we can consider, and just to bring them up to speed on that and see if there's really one direction or another that the majority of the people who attend think is the direction that we should pursue most.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Thomas. I know a lot of people are using those Get Ready funds to do kind of like that direct mailing, potentially having some food there just to kind of create some community buy-in and get people involved. So I second that as well. Maybe something to consider.
Okay.
Little pizza party or something.
Mhm.
I also think that if the meeting can be, their destination for dinner for the evening, it's one less thing, it's not something that's out of the way. It's like, well, I'm going to go there to have dinner and I can learn about something that's important to my community anyway.
All right, so are you suggesting maybe finger food? As opposed to a sit down?
Yeah, I think something, of course, if it's what you guys want to do, just quick and easy, like Genevieve said, pizza. Enfield did spaghetti because obviously pasta is so cheap by the box.
Mm.
But that would require a little bit more cleanup. It's easy to throw pizza boxes out.
Yep.
With that comment too, the Friday following that Wednesday is the last Friday spaghetti dinner at the Masonic Lodge. So just having two activities like that in the same week, I'm not sure. I like the idea more of finger foods. If you're going to keep it at the gymnasium, I get that. The cleanup there is not exactly easy. I've been there when they had kids events and food all over the place and movie night and popcorn everywhere. But it's effective if you have popcorn or some kind of snacks. So I'm not saying not do it, but that location and the time, maybe not spaghetti dinner, but pizza or popcorn or something perhaps.
Maybe get a tray of like sandwiches or wraps or something like that from Hannaford.
I also wondered about, and maybe Thomas or Genevieve, you might know better. Could we do like a raffle? I mean, people will come for food, but if there's a raffle for something that's technology related, I don't know if the Get Ready grants can be used for that. It just popped to my head here, so not sure if it can be used for that or not. It seems like that might be a draw.
Go ahead, Thomas. I think you might have a better.
Well, I was going to say that has been something that has been brought up. It is, I think, my understanding is it's on the table, but it was on the fence in the last meeting that we had with the regional broadband partners. But I can certainly look into that. So, I mean, it's a method that other communities have been trying to do.
We could always raffle off a Wi-Fi router.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so
Well, Roy, let me ask you a question. Do we want to
Yeah.
have two separate events? One for Winter Harbor, one for Gouldsboro?
that was certainly my goal. And
Yeah.
this first one, we can always see how it goes. I mean, we'll do whatever we can come up with for this one, and we can refine or tweak for the second one. I suspect the Winter Harbor one will probably be smaller just because it's probably going to be more people just from Winter Harbor, even though
Right.
we're inviting both communities to both meetings. So that's, I guess it would be good to try and feel out how many people we're going to have for the second meeting based on the first, because that will determine venue, I think, more than anything. But yes, two meetings. This first one, it'd be good not to have to hold the second one too far out afterwards.
No, I agree.
Okay, so we'll figure out, we'll think about some options for food and probably not spaghetti for Wednesday. Do you think something like a 6 o'clock or 6:30 start time? I know you said after people get home, but if we're gonna have food there, maybe it doesn't need to be that late either.
Yep. We can do 6.
6 good for people?
If, if we're on the current rotation for Winter Harbor and you're looking to get Winter Harbor audience there, just a FYI, the selectmen meeting, I think, is scheduled for that Wednesday, the 26th, which is usually about a 6 to 6:30-ish meeting. So I would just recommend maybe bumping this to 6:30 possibly. And the other side note is I will be out of state that week. I can help virtually and whatever and beforehand, but I won't be able to be at the event.
Okay. So Wednesday, 6:30, that'll be our first choice time slot then. So what I can do is I can reach out to Gouldsboro and see if that slot is available. If it's not available, is there an alternate day or time that we want to shoot for? I have writing group Thursdays from 5 to 8, so that'll be out, but other evenings perhaps. I think I could definitely swing a Monday. I could swing a Friday, but again, I don't think people like to meet on Fridays.
No, how about Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 25th.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to attend, probably. I have a committee meeting that night, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen without me. So I'll just put that as an alternate and, we'll see what the schedule has, but this far out at that time of day, I think probably we'd be pretty good to go for the rec center for the Wednesday. Okay. So then also part of the outreach, well, that was really update on outreach prep. Nothing specific to Gouldsboro, Winter Harbor. I'm going to take survey data updates off of future agendas because we're not doing surveys anymore. So I guess the only other big thing regarding the outreach is the content. And so my thoughts were that we give an overview, just maybe the briefest overview to the work that we've done to date, and say, look, these are the models that we have explored. There's the community owned and built from the ground up, like Down East Broadband, and there are models that Consolidated and Axiom have proposed, where they just come and build it and it's their system, or they can build a system for us that we then operate. So basically that spectrum of models, and to go over the general sense of the responses that we got from Consolidated and Axiom, so that people know that there are companies that are out there that are interested in doing projects if the funding is available, and then sort of see what people think, if there's something that they feel is the preferable route to go, just to give us a little bit of guidance. So that's sort of been my thought process on what we make this. So it doesn't have to be a huge long meeting. It's just should be reasonably straightforward and quick, I would think.
And Roy, I think you had mentioned maybe having some sort of like a screen or virtual or something like that for the meeting. Is that correct?
I think we can probably find a projector and projector screen and just throw a PowerPoint up there. Again, nothing too involved, but I think that would be the route to go. I don't think it's virtual because I don't think there's any internet at the rec center.
Oh, right. They're in the same situation, and there may already be a screen there. Do you know Alicia Bryant? And the rec committee actually might be helpful, I guess, because they have
Okay.
done movies and popcorn there and stuff, and somebody
Okay.
somewhere had a screen, just
Mhm.
make it easier.
So. Okay, so I will add that to my list of people to check with. And anybody have any other thoughts about what else we should cover, if anything else? I think at this point in the game, it's pretty straightforward still.
My other thoughts were that it would be a good time during the meeting to have people take the state's new broadband survey that they're using. They're collecting the information and they're rolling it into their broadband action plan, which is, it's going to be the state's formal plan for the next 5 years as to the direction that they're headed in based on feedback from Maine people. So I know they've had a couple of surveys. They've had the speed test. They've had the Correct the Dots campaign, and you guys yourselves have also done surveys. It's a lot. They're taking feedback from all these different places, but the survey they just came out with is the newest, latest and greatest, and something that they're pushing pretty heavy across the state. So I wouldn't want anyone, to feel like, oh, I already took this survey. Why do I have to take it again? But it could be an ideal time to do that. It'd be helpful for the MCA staff.
And just a quick note on the survey too. They're collecting responses and they're doing the first data analysis on the 14th of April to kind of inform the state's broadband plan. But they are keeping the survey open, and it's something that they want people to continue continue participating in throughout the year as well, just to continue getting that data. And as communities change, it'll kind of help inform the changes that need to happen in the state as well. So it's definitely good to keep that survey rolling. And I just popped it into the chat if you want to share it out beforehand as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you're both right. And the other thing is you can actually print it. They have a PDF version. So folks, excuse me, can't make it online. They can do that. And then the regional partners are a good mechanism. And we're right in the midst of doing, Connect the Ready lessons learned from cohort 1 and Get Ready and Reach Me and all those things. So all those things coming together, and then with your community projects too. So I just share with all of you that all those things are being discussed and they're hearing all of your feedback. So keep it coming, but that's the best channel for now. Yeah.
And I'm happy to help if you have any paper surveys as well. You can scan them right to me. I'm happy to help import those as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think the big question people are gonna have is, how much is it gonna cost me on a monthly basis? I mean, the economy is not doing that great, so these are things to consider.
Yeah,
Good point.
absolutely. Something that you could include in your, discussion about broadband and other state developments is their campaign for the Connect the Ready, for the Affordable Connectivity Program. And this is a program that helps subsidize Wi-Fi for people of, lower income. But to be frank with you, it captures a lot of residents in the state of Maine. So it's really inclusive program. And about 9 in 10 people, I think, are eligible for it. But so far, the last statistic that I heard was that only 1 in 10 Mainers were actually signed on to it. So this can subsidize their broadband now to meet their current needs, but also if the infrastructure were to change at all, it should still be able to subsidize further. All of the broadband service providers like Axiom or Spectrum, even, I know you guys have some Spectrum in there, should be enrolled in this federal program. So everyone, pretty much should be eligible.
Okay. So basically what I've got for notes on the content of the presentation would be committee history, and I just added in here because I think it would be very relevant, is to show the survey results of our own surveys to the people. Then go over the models, generally touching on the RFI responses. We can distribute the new broadband survey to attendees, as Genevieve mentioned. We can mention about the Affordable Connectivity Program. To your point, Bob, we don't really know yet what the project itself will cost, but you know, we can give some comparable examples of what the internet service has cost in other areas. And certainly Consolidated provided their pricing model, and they did say that the user fees would be divided up amongst and passed on directly to the customers. So their monthly rate is their monthly rate plus the user fee for building the system. And then just a little question for them: if they were going to attend another one of these meetings, what would be the better day time for them to do that? Because I think the cross section of people that we'll get will probably be pretty similar to other people who would be interested as well, might have similar responsibilities. So that's what I've got for notes. I see Sandy has your hand up.
Yes, two things. So mailing to residents for that particular event, would it be helpful? I don't know if it's possible to do this or not, but actually go to the towns and say who's voted at the past meetings, so that we're very specific about who's actually being invited to these meetings. Number one. And number two is, at the actual event, do we want to have RSU 24 adult ed, see if they might have someone that could table with regards to the free connectivity and programs that they're offering, or at very least have printed materials for their upcoming classes?
I'd say there's no reason why we couldn't reach out to adult ed and let them know that we're going to have this event, and if they'd like to join us for those purposes, and I wouldn't be opposed to it, certainly. And as far as trying to, you're thinking of ways to narrow down the mailing, is it, Sandy? I don't think it's going to be productive to do so, because if you can just send to all addresses, it's a cheaper rate, I think. Otherwise, we'd be sticking stamps on things. And
Yeah, no, that's good. Just a suggestion.
I want neither to pay for stamps or put the work into sticking them on the individual pieces of mail. I've done that.
I can respect that. I've done that too.
So, and I think for the cost that we did the mailings of the surveys, it wasn't that outrageous. So I think we've got, I don't think we need to pinch that much.
On that note, Roy, I think Alita was saying it was $270. I don't know if that included the mailing for both Winter Harbor and Gouldsboro, but it really isn't much money. So I agree. I don't worry about it.
No, and let's see if I still have my sticky note here. No, I don't. But yeah, it was something like we had used about $300 of all of the funds so far. So it's time to do what I was accused of on the RSU 24 board for a long time, which is to start spending money like drunken sailors. So, so is there, like I said, I'll certainly reach out to the town office and perhaps the rec committee directly, and we'll work on securing that date and time for the meeting. And if they have any projection capabilities, is there anybody who wants specifically to take on putting together a PowerPoint for this presentation?
I thought Genevieve raised her hand.
I was worried.
I'm not going to say I don't have the capability to do it, but it's, if it comes down to it, I can do that.
Thomas, is there any templates from other events you've been to? A simple format to, I don't know if that's helpful at all, Roy. I'm sorry, I won't have capacity to help with that, and I'm not sure if Rhiannon has capacity with school right now. That would be my other request, is if she had time.
Yeah, I wish I could. I unfortunately will not be able to. I'm going back and forth between being in the field and being in classes right now, and I am driving 40 minutes to Skowhegan every day for the next 3 weeks. So I do
Yeah.
not have the capacity for that right now.
It's okay.
We'll
I
work-
guess it depends, Sandy, what you're looking to get out of the PowerPoint. There certainly are templates. If this is going to be heavily customized and you guys are going to go into depth about, you know, what your committee has done to date, all the effort that you've put in, what your different options are, who your different providers are, you're going to end up writing a lot of this from scratch. If it was like a broadband 101 template, we can certainly get a broadband 101 template, you know, that talks more about what the internet and the technology is, but it wouldn't explain it all about like who your committee is and where you guys have come from.
I would say, Thomas, if you have some of those sort of broadband 101 things, it might not be bad to send along, even if we don't use it in its entirety. It might be a slide or two that we could just sort of pick out and drop into our own presentation, maybe tweak a little bit just to get people on the same language, basically on the same paradigm.
Yeah, I can dig something up for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
I would even say if there was like a short video introduction, right, before you begin the whole presentation, because you don't know where people are at when they come to this presentation, what they even know or what their expectation is. So some a 101 just to get them sort of primed for what the conversation is.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah,
could
I'll
even lead
see.
with that.
I'll see what we have.
And I know the Island Institute has quite a few videos on community-driven broadband and what that means, so I can send along those resources as well, if that's helpful.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's see. Anybody have any other thoughts about what we're going to do for this first outreach? If not, then I think we can move on to budget. And I'll just sort of lead off this discussion. I spoke with Bob and I spoke with Sandy today, and I think we are not at a point in our work, and certainly with the funding that we have, that it makes sense. And I don't think the communities of Winter Harbor and Goldsboro are in a position necessarily to entertain additional funding requests this year. So given the funding that we already have, I think we're certainly fine for this budget cycle. And with the work that we have to do coming up, I don't think it would be productive for us to request from Winter Harbor or Goldsboro. But Sandy does have a document that I can share on the screen that people may have already seen that does go over some areas that we could envision spending some of our grant funds on. And I think we should have a discussion about that briefly.
Okay.
And I just need to find it. All right.
Yeah, and Roy, so that was just a draft, right, being sent out to the chairpersons for review about what the Get Ready grant is all about. So
Right.
Yeah. Like,
Sort of.
yeah, it's up for discussion today. Just presenting back to the committee today, the Get Ready grant was designed to pretty much help with website domain creation and maintenance, community information sections, community outreach, mailings, postage, newspaper advertising, social media and outreach, and virtual meeting technologies. So that's the $10,000 grant that was accepted. The town of Goldsboro is fiscal sponsor agent handling that. And it was received on February 2nd. We're still waiting for a little bit better clarification from Kendra regarding whether the June 30th is a hard deadline or not. There seems to be feeling that there's going to be some flexibility there because we actually didn't get this funding or support quite as early as they had hoped. With that being said, I just put together a summary of what possible expenditures could be, and it's up to the committee to kind of decide how you want to spend that. Some of the recommendations were to do these outreach meetings, right? And inviting the community to conversations. At this point, it's the very first one that we're just sharing where we're at today. But as we go down the next few months, they may be more elaborate and sharing opportunities of why do people really want broadband. So the list that I put together are some of the organizations that we know many of our community members frequent, right? So Schoodic Institute, obviously at the top, they've been so generous at this point of donating the time and facilitating these virtual meetings, which from my personal perspective, we weren't able to do anything at Winter Harbor because they didn't have the capacity. And we were very fortunate for Schoodic Institute to step up. So personally, I would like to make sure that we sort of return the favor and make sure we have a few meetings with Schoodic Institute if possible. And the 1100 rate is based on their rate for when Roy is holding these meetings for us. It's $275 every time that the organization has been donating to us basically to hold the facility space and virtual time. So that's a pretty large chunk they've already committed to this broadband initiative. So looking down the list, Schoodic Arts for All, another opportunity, the town offices, we have some important days coming up for election day and town meetings. Those would be some great opportunities for outreach. RC24 Adult Ed has all these free classes. I would recommend that we do maybe commission them somehow or invoice them. They would invoice us actually for facilitating some of these events. I don't know that they necessarily have a fee for doing this coming off site from where they're at. But I would estimate like $250 is kind of the set amount I put for any kind of event, which would help with either marketing or food or hiring a contracted person to actually speak with expertise. So there's a whole list there, a menu of possibilities. We don't have to do any of them. We could do just 2 of them or not. We have $10,000 to spend and we have an opportunity to reach people in all the places that they frequent in our community. So if we took that whole list of all that outreach, which is a lot of outreach, there's $5,500 I put aside towards that. If we decide to only do 2 of those, I would say take that money and put it into the actual virtual meeting technologies and website domains for both of the towns. Both of them are in a position that they could use some upgrading or assistance with providing better virtual technologies. And that would be something either Roy or someone that's in the infrastructure of both of the towns could help decide what the most important things are that are needed.
So Roy. So it's me.
Going down the line, administrative, the grant only allows for 5% of the grant to go towards administrative. I would recommend $500 of that goes to the town of Gouldsboro for the bookkeeping of the actual grant, just to support their administrative. Technical assistance partners, those are the ones that are mostly here today, have been invited. That's part of the Get Ready grant we received, was all the free technical assistance that goes with that. The only questionable part at this point is, are there things we need, legal assistance, or do we need to pay somebody to map for anything to help really, really communicate what we're trying to do for the communities? So I'm not sure what those costs are. There's a hidden that we don't know, and we still don't have clarity on whether the Get Ready grant that we have is to be used for contracted, just like we don't know if we can really use it for buying a raffle gift of some sort. And I think that was kind of it. This is what I propose. There are lots of different ways to do this, and certainly I would love to hear from the committee how they would like to spend the money or how we want to move forward with that. Questions? or
Well,
comment.
This is Bob. I think Roy and I, when Roy and I spoke earlier today, I think it's time to go to RFP to develop the cost, the actual cost. So we have something to present for budget, looking for grant money, et cetera. So I think it's terribly important to say, okay, Axiom Consolidated, this is the RFP. So, because the RFI was nothing but boilerplate, was really nothing substantial on it. The only thing we know is that Consolidated is the LEC, and they have connectivity to all the residences in both towns. Okay, and if not direct connectivity, the polls, they have the polls. Well, Consolidated has the polls. So I think it's important to get these costing measures addressed. You know, what is it going to cost to do fiber? Do we want to do redundant fiber because that raises the cost dramatically? Questions to ask would be, are there collapsed rings with this? So, I mean, there's answers that we definitely need to know. And then what's the monthly cost really going to be? You know, because you got build costs and you also have monthly recurring charges for the consumer. So these are the things that really need to get nailed down. And before we can request any additional funding, we need to know what we're requesting.
Mhm.
I mean, does it make sense?
Alyssa?
Saying bye to one child. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. First of all, it's great to get to know all of you and see your faces. So, Bob, to your point, I think part of the Get Ready grant is while you're doing your RFP, we as a company should be able to tell you a broad stroke of the cost. So you kind of should have that in your back pocket. We're fairly close to doing that in, say, the next month or so, if not sooner, for most of the Get Ready projects. So we'll be able to sit with you on this meeting and say, hey, we looked at, you know, Winter Harbor, we looked at Gouldsboro, we looked at these areas. This is the cost. And why are these the costs? And what does it mean? And you can kind of do a little bit of plug and play, but then as you're getting your RFP responses, to your point about the RFI, you can then sort of stronghold a little bit with, well, we thought this, how come that, right? And have a more informed conversation. So I just want you to know, good to continue on the RFP front, but you should have some good stuff in your back pocket that you'll be able to refer to. And you can ask us questions about outside of this space or without the provider there, just to get some context. So, yeah.
And Bob, you and I had spoken before the meeting, and so I think one of the things we'd like to do is for the next meeting, whenever that happens to be, to try to invite Axiom, a representative from Axiom, a representative from Consolidated to visit with us on the call and sort of initiate that discussion before we actually go to RFP. Because
Yeah,
I
good
think,
call. Yep.
okay, so I'll make a point to reach out to them for that purpose as well.
Okay.
One of the things that strikes me, and I think it would be helpful, perhaps, is to go ahead and secure. I think we could very easily get a domain for this committee for this work, and start building a website and putting information up on a website that could be a tool ongoing for distributing information and so forth. I think that would be a good expense to do, and it'd be pretty easy to just put together a basic website. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just to get it out there and get a launch pad basically for whatever content we may want to share in the future. So, and then the virtual meeting technologies, that's pretty straightforward to do. I think it's good. I think it goes a little bit outside of the charge of what we're doing right now, but if it's related enough for the grant, I think it would be good to be able to help facilitate getting those pieces for the towns, because We know there's some demand in the towns for those types of access.
Right.
And then the outreach events, you know, to that point, I did call Schoodic Institute. So especially if it looks like we're going to have a decent amount of attendance that might exceed what we would want to put into the Winter Harbor town office meeting room, I did ask Megan Mosier, and if we wanted to get, for example, the lecture hall at Moore Auditorium at Schoodic for an evening, it's $675. So that's up there, but it's also a very nice setting for people, and it might be, if we're trying to attract people, it might be nice to use that sort of a space. And it would certainly get us a long ways to compensating Schoodic Institute for the 1,100 so far. So,
Roy, that's so they haven't donated 1,100. It's been way more than that. Every meeting per month has been 275, right? I'm just presenting that if we had 4 more meetings.
I don't know what the actual donated cost would be. Obviously, there were the early meetings that we met in the physical breakout rooms, and one at the one in the lecture hall. I mean, my time, you know, I am certainly not compensated at that generous of a rate, but and you know, the Zoom account, I mean, that's another thing. If we wanted to, we could purchase our own Zoom, so we're not actually having to, you know, dance around scheduling with Schoodic Institute as we start to use our Zoom account more. So, but it's definitely, I wouldn't say that 275 is the actual cost of my contribution on behalf of Schoodic Institute, but it's a metric, you know, so. But that's just another option is.
I would love to. I don't know if we can propose in this meeting today to at least allow to compensate for some of these things that we've talked about, right? To move forward with it, because if we are going to do something with the towns, they do need to have approval also that they want to have this technology done. So it's not just us saying, yes, we're going to do it. If we say yes, we need their approval still. And we'll still be a month or so down the road, just getting that approval, I think. I would also highly recommend that we approve something for Schoodic Institute and funds for the Goldsboro and Winter Harbor outreach events out of the Get Ready grant.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we lost Roy.
Oh, whoops. Oh, so Mike had to leave. Oops, sorry. Okay, well, the rest of us are still here. Can you all still hear me?
Yep.
Whoops. There you go. See, our funding at Schoodic Institute was just cut off. This is why we need our own Zoom. The irony of all that. That is not good. Connectivity out here today has not been good. I've been bumped out twice, so I apologize for that. And now we don't have our quorum to vote on that because we just lost half of the folks. Rhiannon, are you still listening in?
I am.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on spending of that and what could best be used in the communities?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, first and foremost, I think that it probably would be a good idea to have our own Zoom. I think that especially if we're kind of ramping things up a little more, and now that we do have the funding, I don't really see the point of trying to schedule through Schoodic Institute and around all of their other uses for their Zoom account anymore. In terms of like having larger outreach events at that lecture hall, I feel like maybe that would be something that would be better decided upon once we see what kind of turnout we're getting for like these initial outreach events. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I do feel like the Schoodic Institute, the Moore Center, that is a great draw for a lot of the folks in the community. They're just so comfortable with going to events there. If we could find maybe a public speaker to kind of open up that session with conversation, that might be helpful as well. You know, every event I've attended there, they're putting up chairs in the back of the auditorium, getting people in. So if we can get some sort of a speaker to draw, maybe during the summer or later, early fall.
Definitely. And also, I mean, I know that we want to get as many permanent residents in like year-round residents involved as possible, but I do think that it's important not to discount seasonal residents because they are also affected by this. So having more events in the summer is definitely valuable, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Alyssa, you dropped a chat in there, 149 a year, up to 2 full licenses. Is that Zoom? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, I see that now.
Yep.
Yeah, 149 a year. Yeah, so I guess the question is, like with the Get Ready grant, if we purchased like a 3-year or something, we need to make the purchases ahead of the end of the contract. That's our challenging thing, right?
yeah, and the software license will run like from whatever day you submit, that'll be your year, and then it'll come through. And I would just say, as long as you have in your grant file that it was a, you know, a reasonable and allocable cost to do business, to do outreach, that's kind of the blurb you need, right? And then you have your Zoom license and why you spent it on that. So
Yeah.
And as you're doing your worksheets and things back to MCA, you could include it there, like this was needed for this reason. And if you need 2, because each of you need 1, right, for each area, that would be appropriate. Yeah. So
Yeah. And I'm sorry that Roy dropped off the technology part of it for both of the towns. So Winter Harbor doesn't really have any sort of technology, and Gouldsboro, I know I've attended some of their virtual meetings, but somebody's using like their personal laptop.
their
and-
own, yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
always
that's-
is the way. That's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, any meetings I go to as well, I've brought my personal laptop to my other committee meetings for the town as well. And I'm like, I spent a lot of money on this laptop. Like, if I drop it in the meeting, are you gonna pay me back?
Yeah, totally. That's fair. Well, and that's a fair point to go to there, Sandy, if you needed a piece of equipment that was reasonable and allocable, you know what I mean? That's dedicated. That's another piece
Right.
of this. So yeah, definitely.
So we've just got to figure out who wants to be responsible for the equipment.
There you go.
In my case, I'm thinking it probably would be well to put it with the safety committee, because my own other thought was with emergency preparedness, right? It's usually the safety and whatnot. This was the other thing we ran into when we had the Christmas emergency and we opened up warming shelters. There was no connectivity, there was no computer, there was no way to check in people, and both gymnasiums can actually act as, hold on, this is Roy. Roy, you're on speaker and we're on Zoom. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a heads up, I am in the process of trying to get my bonded DSL internet connection working again. So
Okay. All right. And you'll just jump back into the Zoom. Do you want to hold on? Do you want to stay on the phone so you can hear our conversation?
I'll pick it up in the recording.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
you go ahead and discuss without me, and I'll be back as soon as I can.
Okay. And
Okay.
sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Rhiannon, are you in a place that you can just take a couple of notes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So just the conversations we've had, and just share those with Roy afterwards. He can add them to the meeting notes if we need to. So moving on that, Bob, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, nothing for that, but I do have to leave at 5:30. Have a
Yeah,
state legislative committee meeting to join.
great. All right. Well, this is going to be a little tricky because we don't have a quorum to vote on spending. Bob, do you have a recommendation on what steps to do next? If we're
Well,
gonna-
I think we can schedule another call just for that.
Okay.
get enough folks where we have a quorum, and that
Yep.
could be as soon as tomorrow or next week
Yep.
to vote on that and then move forward.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's important to start getting those funds distributed in a way so we can start making an impact.
agreed, agreed. So
One other
that's our,
question I had for you, Bob, was with regards to the RFP and Alyssa, Genevieve and Thomas, maybe you can help out with this. Is there some way we could leverage this Get Ready grant and funds to get to that RFP?
I'm
And,
sorry, I don't understand the question.
with the Get Ready grant funds, is there
Uh-huh.
anything else we can use those funds on to help move forward the RFP process?
No, well, in terms of costs to us, there's really no cost. It's just assembling the RFP, the questions, and then distribute it to Axiom and consolidate it and waiting for their response. The biggest thing is that we have to give a drop dead date when responses are due. So usually you have 30 days to respond upon receipt of an RFP. So that would be the lead time with that.
And-
Yeah, I'd agree, Bob. That's sort of the minimum, I would say, right? And that's the thing, if you are getting closer to looking at the next cohort of Connect the Ready, which is going to be August, September, right? Are you ready for that? If you get them back, is that enough time? We can sort of be here to support your, hey, we have the RFP. Do you want somebody else to look at it, right? And give you
Yep.
any pointers, happy to do so. But yeah, I think you've
Sure.
got the right idea. Yep.
Yep. Roy, welcome back.
What can I say? I love my bonded DSL internet from Consolidated Communications.
Wow.
Sandy, I'm just curious, because I never heard the outcome of your meeting with Kendra Joe and Tilson Technologies way back, a month or two ago. What were their thoughts on doing an RFP at that time? And were there any hangups or any issues that you guys had encountered?
No, I think they just said to keep going on with the process, right? There was no deadline or talk about that sort of timeline. We were talking more just about outreach for the community. And I don't remember, Roy, if there were other details about that at that point. I think the grant.
Nothing really, no results of that discussion, I would say. I haven't seen anything. But no, we talked about outreach and we talked about working towards an RFP and we talked about, looking at when it comes down to project time, looking at, does it make sense to involve others in the neighborhood as well? So.
What were their thoughts on that?
Well, I just brought up one specific case with Consolidated, which is that Franklin is what I would consider low-hanging fruit for Consolidated because they have Eastbrook served and all of the fiber that runs to Eastbrook runs through Franklin. So it would be pretty easy for them to expand in Franklin. The infrastructure is always there. All right. Thank you, Rhiannon.
Okay.
One question that I was going to ask Alyssa here. It is Alyssa, right? Okay. Is you mentioned that you are going to have some cost estimates coming forward soon-ish, and I was curious if you thought that might be something that would be available when we do go to the outreach event at the end of April.
I can check with Kendra Joe. It's easy for us to hit a button and say, go forth and give us a bill of materials. As you all just alluded to, you have some ISPs that are already there. So our costs are like from scratch, right? So they'll be a little probably less than what they are. And then as you start engaging with those entities, they'll really know what their costs are. But we should be able to share with you the ballpark. And what we've been doing, we actually just talked about it today, is those we're hearing from more frequently, like Sandy reached out last week and I said to Kendra Joe, hey, I'm hearing from Scudic and we probably should talk about the regional approach because there may be, some impact here. So I think as you're starting to get connected to the other consultant partners, either Mission Broadband or Casco Bay, they're going to kind of fill that middle piece that you guys are asking for right now. And then we're going to be able to say, yeah, here's your technical deliverable. Here's what you need to know. So that's the next, I would say, coming soon piece. Yeah.
Okay.
But the easy hit the button, we know the community and the area, right? And we can generally have a technical person say, gosh, it makes sense to include the area. Or if we do the two together, what does that impact mean? Those we do all the time, and they're very easy to do, like a high level design, right? To give you kind of perspective. Yep. So I can share that with Kendra Joe, that you're kind of saying, hey, look, we've got the RFP coming. It'd be nice to have some idea. Generally it's, for you all to kind of have in the back of your mind, like, gee, we know it, the cost is generally going to be around here. Now, then you can use that as some bargaining with whoever responds to your RFP. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pass it along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa, do you think that would come, or anyone on the panel, would that come in a really simple, like rec card, one pager that folks?
That's the fun part, Sandy. I know. And I've been at Tilson for 12 years and I just feel like I know how to read one of these things, but we have really smart people that I think can help us to get to that point. Pull out the numbers that are most important and why they are what they are, and then be able to do a little of the, hey, community, Scudic, would you like to own this or are you going to lease it? Those conversations then come up really quick. And some folks understand and get those. And that may be where, Thomas is helping you to understand that dynamic. What's the better? And we can just say, well, if we do it this way, this is what changes if we do it that way. So it's not only how much it costs to build it, but how are you actually going to get the, the building blocks to put it all together and the impact. So it's kind of both of those things. Yeah. So we try to simplify it, but it does take a little bit of just understanding, asking a lot of questions and wrapping your head around it. Yeah. So you're not alone in that either. Yeah.
Okay. Well, does anybody have anything else they would like to go over?
Well, Roy, I have a question. As mentioned, I think you had some connectivity issues, but I think we need to have a quorum established as soon as possible to vote on expenditures. And it doesn't matter really the time or date, as long as we have a quorum to vote.
Okay. Are we talking about just like sort of a blanket approval of a planned set of expenditures, or are we talking about specific ones?
Sandy, you had a lot of comments on that.
Yeah, so at least to get approval for any funds going to the Goldsboro Winter Harbor ones that are coming up in April, right? We want to agree to
Mhm.
that. But also with the towns identifying for connectivity, if we're going to go and get the Zoom program, getting that together and approval for that.
Yep.
I think those are the two main ones to get going. I would love to have approval for the $500 admin fee right to town of Goldsboro as well for managing the finances that we've dropped in their lap.
Right. And I see we've lost Tom Lloyd, and we have lost Mike Summer as well. So,
Yeah. They must have
Yeah.
the same connection you did.
but 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. So we're shy on a quorum now.
Thank you,
Uh,
Bob.
Yes. Well, if that's what it was, then I feel better that it's not just me. But speaking of that, we still have Josh Mansfield listed as a member, and he has not been at any of the recent meetings. I haven't heard from him, and so I would say it might be worth hypothetically deciding that he's not an active participant of the committee anymore.
Mm.
Because having a lot of people listed on the committee who don't show up is a good way to not have a quorum.
Yep.
I would vote to remove Josh from the list of members if that's acceptable to everyone.
Okay, I mean, it's not, without a quorum, it's kind of hard to vote on it, but
Mm.
I think that may be something we want to definitely try to make happen next time, but I'm hoping this different meeting time, this 4 o'clock meeting will be, will facilitate having more of us be able to attend on a regular basis. And with that idea, for our next meeting,
Mhm.
do we want to try, let me look at the calendar here. So if the 26th is our outreach date, should we try to meet on the 12th?
Well, is that to,
To
Yeah.
just to get an update on, to sort of go over our hopefully deliverables for the meeting or for the outreach, or to review and polish them, and maybe to vote on some expenditures, if we can get a quorum, get some of these housekeeping details taken place, maybe trim the trim the committee list.
well, I think it's real important that we get the vote done on expenditures as soon as we can.
Mhm.
So doesn't have to be the 12th, it could be like I said, mentioned to Sandy, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. But we just have like a quick, and it doesn't have to be long, just a 5-10 minute call, really,
Okay.
these are the expenditures, yes or no.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think it would help us to meet again between now and the outreach event, though, just to finalize that plan. So we
Yep.
can certainly, if you want, we'll pencil in the 12th as our next regular meeting, and then we can schedule a different, a special meeting just to deal with those things if you want.
Sure thing.
And
Yep.
we'll just want to make sure we get as many people there for that meeting as possible.
Yep.
That will be 4 o'clock on the 12th.
4 o'clock on the 12th.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Okay. So if it's not a doodle poll, I've never actually done one, but I will do something to send an email out to get people to let me know when they might be available to do a special meeting in addition to, or in advance of
Mm,
the 12th.
okay.
And Roy, do you feel like the panelists that are here today, the technical assistants and everything, is that something you want presence at on ongoing basis?
It might be good on the 12th to have that presence, just so as we're reviewing what we would be showing at the meeting, or maybe getting additional information, that they can comment on that. And maybe we can make changes then and there, whatever the case may be.
Sounds good.
As far as scheduling future meetings outside of our regular meeting time, I'm just gonna drop a link for you, Roy, for when to meet. I just know that it's worked really well for the e-board for our campus radio station that I'm a part of, and everyone on there has particularly wild schedules. So if it's something you wanted to try out, just a resource that might work.
Okay, thank you.
Rhiannon, I didn't know you were on a radio station. We got to get you out here.
Mm,
All right, everybody else set?
I
Yep.
think so. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
take care.
Thanks for letting me listen in. Have a good one.
Thanks for having
Bye-bye.
me.
Thank you, Thomas. All right.
Bye.